Good evening. Well, so tonight, personal finance, we're going to talk about housing. So we'll talk about some other issues too, but um, especially if you were watching the market today, I mean, it's dropping kind of precipitously. And like I say, there's nothing to worry about in the stock market, um, because it goes in swings, it comes up and down. But a lot of people might prefer housing because of the ability to leverage and some other things. Incidentally, around back on the 25th, so 5, 6 days ago, I was talking to a good friend of mine, my best friend, and decided that the market's not looking very promising right now, and I stepped out, so with a fairly significant chunk. So I'm pretty happy actually. It could actually work out for you if the market goes down if you're on the sidelines. I won't be on the sidelines for too awful long. I'll wait till try and guess where rock bottom is and then jump back in. So it all works. But anyway, lots of people have had this strategy before. It's not unique, and lots of people have guessed wrong. So they call it trying to catch a falling knife when you're trying to guess the bottom when the stock market's dropping. It works for some people. There's some millionaires out there, but there's a lot of people who are whatever. As long as you're playing with your own money, not a big deal, and not money that I don't have any children in the hospital or any huge dependencies that I can't cover if I happen to have a problem. So anyway, housing. A lot of things with housing are going to come down to personal desirability. Myself, I would never want to live. I've lived in apartments. We all have to do it at some point, and dorms even in college. And man, I've never happy with that sort of situation. And so that's one thing. And then there's also the financial aspects of it. Other people, they don't like to deal with stuff around the house, and when you own it, it's yours, and so that is a problem. It does limit your mobility. Real estate is not considered a liquid investment. So anyway, we'll talk about a lot of those things tonight. So housing alternatives, what you got, costs and benefits associated with renting, implement the home buying process, costs, and strategy for selling a home. So, full disclosure, I'm not a real estate salesperson now, and Alaska's kind of funny. You have to call yourself a salesperson rather than an agent or a salesman. Well, I guess you can do the salesman thing, but that's just kind of politically incorrect. But the agent business is the Alaska statutes are filled with people who've done bad things. Basically, there's a lot of people who've done scams and stuff. So Alaska real estate law is molded by examples of unscrupulous people primarily on the selling end, and they've tried to rein that in with pretty tight control, and hopefully they've done that. But if you notice some strange things in Alaska real estate law, they're usually there for a purpose. Alaska is very strong on disclosure. If you're selling a house and there's a problem with it, and you just anyway, not a good idea. And if the agent, or I can't even use the word agent because that's salesperson knows about that, he's in deep kimchi as well. So the whole thing is anyway. I don't want to steer you away from real estate, but if you get involved in a transaction and they have to hand you a form, and have disclosure about their relationship with you in terms of their agency, whether they're representing you, whether they're representing someone else as well, the buyer and the seller, all that stuff there's a reason why those laws exist, and it's because people have done stuff screwy in the past. So anyway, housing alternatives by life stage. And like I said, this is actually pretty darn accurate. When you're a young and single guy, who wants to be tied down to a house? Now, I have had students, believe me, that are young, single, and they're all about getting ahead financially and time value of money and all that, and they jump in and get some investment property or buy a home that's going to be investment property, and good on them, because that's going to work out for them. But for most people, you don't even know whether you're going to stay there. And I realize some people are lifelong Alaskans, and other people are like moving on as soon as they get my degree. So anyway, that might be a reason to be in a rental situation. Young couple, no children. Now you're kind of getting to the point where, at least for me, I did want to have a home. I wanted a yard, and I've always had dogs, so that's kind of a no-brainer. Having dogs and rentals is a nightmare. A couple young children again. Oh, I'm sorry, that first one was no children. Well, now you're kind of, what they used to call those folks? Anyway, people with no kids. Dinks. Double income, no kids. Anyway, you're kind of living the lifestyle, but once you get kids, things change. Retired, if you're still in a rental situation and you're retired, still paying rent, that's bad because rental, incomes tend to be fixed when you're retired, and rents tend not to be fixed. So that's a bad situation. I know a lot of people. I was in Spain for a long time, and man, a lot of folks retired over there, military guys, were living high on the hog, and their military retirement hasn't changed, but the rents in Spain have changed a lot, and those guys are in serious trouble. A couple of children no longer at home, so now you're kind of the empty nester, looking to downsize, and then a single parent. That's just a struggle, but financially you're still better off, owning a home if you can. So I know it seems like a burden, but just the same, you owe it to yourself for your quality of life to take advantage of the benefits that come with owning a house. And we'll talk about that as we go. So, yeah, we got to do it this way. Housing alternatives, lifestyle, choice, how you spend your money. Yeah. 25 to 33% of your take-home pay on housing, no more than 2.5 times your annual income. Yeah, I've broken that rule more than once. Mainly on investment property, though. I tend to be fairly aggressive in that. And, if things go bad, you kind of ride it out. Get some top ramen. But seriously, as a family, you should probably try to stay within these guidelines. But just the same, you need to live in a home, and also you need to know the market. There's Las Vegas and places in Arizona and down in Florida. The market's kind of all over the place. That can happen here in Alaska, but on the last go around it really didn't. So who knows? Things have been fairly stable, but back in, I guess it was 84, so real problems. Opportunity costs. Interest earning loss on money used for a down payment. We talked about some of the interest that you're getting in a savings account. I don't see that as a big issue right now. Now, if you're competing and putting it in the stock market, but again, the comfort factor. I'm not risk averse at all, but even so, if I have a choice between putting investments in real estate or putting them in the market, you end up with a lot of money in the market whether you want to or not. You may be somebody who doesn't want to be involved in the stock market, but guess what? When you get a 401k with your company, your firm, that if you're working for somebody else, you're going to end up with money in the market. So by owning your own home, you're actually diversifying. So that helps out. Time and cost of commuting to live in the area that offers less costly housing. So we all know, I live in Eagle River, so I see all the folks going to the valley right past me, and I may end up out there at some point too, because I want more land. But it's a serious trade-off. If you're doing it strictly on an economic basis, you need to do the math and calculate the amount of fuel and the wear and tear on the car and the wear and tear on you too. But if you've got kids out there and you got a big house and some land, I completely understand it. But if you're doing it purely on economic terms, again, just do the calculation in terms of your commute. Now, if you're somebody who's only coming in once in a while, there's a lot of slope folks out there where the commute is not a big deal because they're not doing it that often. Then it's a whole different parameter. But you obviously can do much better for your money out there. Opportunity cost of housing choices. So renters lose tax advantages and equity growth. And let's say I'm making $250,000 of profit in the stock market and $250,000 on a home sale. Which one do you want? The home sale. If you sell something in the stock market or any kind of investment other than real estate, you've got to pay capital gains, and it's huge. It's another income stream. But there's some good deals in real estate, such as the fact that if it's your primary residence, so it can't be an income property, and you lived in it 2 out of the past 5 years, up to $250,000 worth of profit is tax free. And if you're married, it's 500,000. So that is, who knows how long that will last, but it's the law, and it's a legal way to make some money that I certainly have taken advantage of. Time and money you spend to repair and a lower price home. When you own a home, the costs involved, the amount of money you'll end up dumping in Home Depot and Lowe's and silly things, garden hoses and this and that, and that stuff adds up. But it's quality of life as well. So, and not to say that rental, you still need a few things, but it's not quite like owning a home. So, renting process. If you're in a situation you're going to get a rent, if you're going to rent something, you need to, again, they like to use these process type things, but you need to be aware of what's going to be going on. And in this case, they're showing it as a cycle, that it's kind of a transitory type thing. Verify the lease starting date, talk to a lawyer. Again, lawyers are about $250 an hour, so most things are fairly spelled out in the lease. There's not a whole lot of questions. Usually it's not a good thing for you that the items are spelled out in the lease. But the good news about Alaska is, again, there's a rental pamphlet that you can get. It's put out by the state, and it clearly defines your rights. And the person renting the property, if you guys end up in the tenant versus the landlord, and you have to go to the state to sort this thing out, the tie usually goes to the tenant. So you can't be overly difficult, but if you've got an abusive landlord who's barging into your property and doing other things, you will usually prevail and get that situation squared away. Renting your residence. So again, select an area, compare costs, talk to current and past tenants. When this is available, that's great. But anyway, I've got some rental property, and it's in Europe, and it's ideal because it's military folks who are thrust into a rental situation because they don't want to buy overseas. So they're people that are not your typical renters. They don't have credit issues. They don't have some family history that's kind of forcing them into a rental situation. So they're fairly ideal. Plus, the housing in Germany, the stuff is all made out of basically stone and concrete. They've got lots of wood in Germany, but they don't build their homes out of it. So the houses are real sturdy, and no urban sprawl, and some other things that make it ideal. But anyway, when you're looking for a rental place, you definitely want to do some homework and see what the other folks have got. So why would you rent? Definitely, the freedom to, if the job opportunities are someplace else, or the lifestyle you want is someplace else, you can move right on. The maintenance stuff, when things break, just, jump away. So, and then the lower initial costs, although you have, first and last and a bunch of other things, but you don't have a huge down payment. Now, that being said, I'm still obviously a big advocate of buying if you can. Disadvantages, no tax benefits. All that mortgage interest you're paying, that's deductible. That capital gains that hopefully you'll get, that's just free and clear. So the other things are too that limitations on remodeling. If you want to change something, it's difficult, and plus you're in kind of a transitory state, so you might change something for the better, but you don't really want to make any long-term investments. And the pets, other activities, if you've got but this can happen even in a buying situation. I know communities here in Eagle River where they go out and count your trees. You need 3 trees, and if a moose eats a tree, you need to go plant another. And they're just, I don't live in that kind of community, but the restrictions in some of these communities where people own can be bad as well. Legal concerns of a lease, not too much different than buying a house. And costs, like I said, the security deposit. Renter's insurance, not a huge issue. Some of you may be familiar with renter's insurance. If you are renting, certainly get it. It's not very expensive. I pay renter's insurance for my daughter's apartment down in Alabama, and it's like less than $100 a year. So not a big deal, and it'll get you some peace of mind and maybe replacement costs if you go with the correct company. Legal details of the lease, yeah, all that's going to be on there. But the big thing is that red part that I added at the bottom. If you're going to get in a lease, go ahead and grab that pamphlet. They should have them. I know as a real estate, salesperson, I always had to hand those things out if I was involved in a rental transaction. So the information's available, and it's very favorable towards you. So go ahead and take a look at that. When is rent due, date, amount, all those different things will be on there. The right to sublet, a military type thing if you're in that situation. Can you break the lease, if there's a problem? If you get the job offer in Century and you want to move, what's going to be involved? Can you sublet it? Can you put somebody else in there? Generally, no, unless you get that agreed to ahead of time. So, and then the conditions where the landlord may enter the rental unit, that is often spelled out. Well, it is spelled out in that pamphlet. So maybe they've got something better than what's spelled out in the pamphlet, but it's things like 24 hours notice and other things where they just can't come barging in, because some landlords will do that. The home buying process. Okay, again, find and evaluate the property, price it out, obtain financing, close a purchase transaction, determine home ownership fees. Anyway, the thing about Alaska that is unique compared to some of the other states is Alaska's a non-disclosure state. So when you buy a home, you don't have to reveal to the government, unless you do it voluntarily, what the purchase price is. So it makes a lot of the purchase price information, like stuff you'd find on Zillow and other things, kind of garbage, because they're not really dealing with a trustworthy database. And then there's so many other factors. I did a fairly exhaustive internet search before I was looking to buy a home, the home that I own now. But some of the other properties I looked at were, 6 acres, but then you come to find out it's all in the avalanche zone. So you really need to look at some of the other factors that don't translate well. I'm not trying to, it's not because I was involved in real estate, but there's some of those real estate agents out there are worth their weight in gold. There's other ones that are absolute garbage, but there's some folks that are very, very knowledgeable that will give you that kind of insight in terms of avalanche zones and places that are going to be shady up until like May, and just other things about the property that are really quite valuable to you as a buyer. So other reasons for buying a homeowner or being a homeowner, the pride of ownership. And I'll admit that, I like to have my own place. But the financials, getting back to the more tangible stuff, the property taxes, the interest deduction, that's huge. Now, if that begins to be threatened, and I don't think it will, the real estate lobby is pretty strong. But if that were taken away, you're going to see property prices drop by like 15%. And there's going to be a whole lot of people that are just priced out of the market because that is so valuable. But anyway, I don't see that going away. So I would see that as a huge reason to stay in the market. Potential increase in the value of your home, that can happen. Like I said, and it's, still should go up a little bit. But keep in mind that example I used before about, if you can, say your dream home again is like $500,000, but you can only afford the $250,000 home, and you buy that $250,000 home, it goes all the way up to $500,000. But that $500,000 home, it's now $1 million home, and you started out $250,000 behind your dream home. Now you're a whole $500,000 behind your dream home. So inflation is a two-edged sword. The only thing worse than not being in that market, though, is sitting on the sidelines and being a renter and seeing your rent go double and you not have anything back. But anyway, I'm not saying that's not it's still a positive situation for being a homeowner, but inflation in the housing market is not necessarily a positive thing in terms of you getting that dream house that you're after. Equity in your home, at a certain point when you're retired and you no longer are compelled to work, well, the reason that's going to happen is because you own that home. You don't have to pay rent. If you're in a retirement situation, you're still paying rent. Things have gone horribly wrong. And anyway, it's going to happen. Folks out there are not prepared for retirement, but that doesn't mean it needs to be you in that situation. Drawbacks of home ownership: financial uncertainty. So you got to get a down payment, unless you go with one of the programs. You got to obtain the mortgage, which is a hassle, notably. Property values could drop, and again, I would have disagreed with that 10 years ago. Maybe, not completely disagree with it. There was always this potential, but now it is a reality. We've seen it happen. So will it happen again? But even when it did happen, it was the people who were really overextended who got knocked out of the market. It's like anything else, when you're investing, when you're living in a home that's, there's a certain percentage of your home that's what you need for a bare minimum to get by, and you decide to go over and above that for the investment's sake because you want to, control more of an asset. Well, that extra, you got to make sure that you can weather a storm, potentially even a job loss for a certain length of time until you could sell that home. So anyway, don't be silly. I do know, again, the friend of mine down in Florida we were talking stocks the other week. He had some folks, 2 doctors, so they're making very good money, and they bought a place for $1.3 million, and they sold it for $300,000. So that's $1 million hit, and they're both employable. So you could try and declare bankruptcy, but you can't because you still have money. So they're going to be working their lives to pay off that $1 million buffoonery because they couldn't endure the market and they sold at the bottom. So again, that's a fairly extreme example. I'm not suggesting anybody go out and do that kind of speculation, but because of that, because it could happen. Mobility, it can take time to sell your home. And buyers can fall through, and it's like anything else. It's like a computer. When you need it really bad, it doesn't tend to work for you. When you really need to sell your home, you get people with flaky credit and the deal falls apart. So real estate contracts are written as such that people can pull out, either you or they, and really nothing is said. You're signing all sorts of contracts, but to tell you the truth, when things fall apart, people just sort of walk away. It's just not worth the time or the effort to be suing each other. So it's kind of sad, but that's just the nature of the business. Higher living costs, I mentioned this before, all those little things will hit you. Rising real estate taxes, I don't agree with that because if you're in a rental situation and me as the landlord, my real estate taxes go up, guess what? Your rent goes up. So you're not going to be sheltered from that in any situation. Assess the type of housing available. So single family, multiple, condominium, cooperative housing. So when you think of the American dream, you're normally talking single family dwelling, a standalone kind of thing. Multiplex, again, duplex. I've never lived in one, but that's, completely doable, especially if you're in a urban environment. Condominiums and co-ops. The condominium thing, I'm not a fan of. As a, in a salesperson type situation, there were some very strange covenants that are pretty standard here in Alaska, where if you want to rent, let's say you own a condominium in a development there, and you want to rent your condominium, well, guess what? They usually have only a certain percentage of the units within this complex can be rentals. So now you've got other people kind of getting involved in your business, whether you want to rent or sell. And anyway, it just makes condominiums less attractive in terms of pricing and selling and the whole bit. I wouldn't want. You've got enough factors going on when you're trying to buy or sell a piece of property, and the artificiality of having an association telling you that no, you can't rent. You've got to, let the thing sit there unoccupied till you can sell it. I don't want that. Cooperative housing, it depends on the situation. In truth, condominiums and cooperatives are not that much different. The condominium you basically own from the paint inside. Cooperative housing, you guys, shares and rents and multiple. It's a different legal structure. And then you also have some different things. Some of these co-op type things that are sprung up in downtown, and that's more of a lifestyle choice. But I'm not, in with those folks, and I'd freak out. So that's not something I'm looking at. But if it worked for you, more power to you. But that's more of like a community living type situation. Manufactured homes, trailer homes, man, they have changed the rules slightly to where you can now get more normal type mortgages on these things. But the problem with manufactured homes is you buy a home because it's going to appreciate in value. Manufactured homes, mobile homes typically go down in value, so they depreciate. So, and there's just a stigma attached to them. Now, there's going to be more of a hybrid where you don't see it so much here in Alaska, but in a lot of lower 48 developments, they'll have modular additions within homes. So they look like stick-built homes, a home built from studs and all that other stuff, but they'll be manufactured elements just because it's cheaper to do that in a factory. But right now, if you're in that sort of situation and that's what you can get by with, maybe you got to do it. But I certainly wouldn't do it for investment type purposes. Home buying process, building a home. If you're in that situation, more power to you. I would not recommend that to the first-time person. Delays, construction loans. Construction loans, the interest rates will be exceedingly expensive, and it's not because the lender needs to be protected, and there's a lot of halfway finished homes that are worth kind of nothing, and so the lender's not secured, so he's going to charge you a huge interest rate till this home is built. So that period of construction, which might be 8-9 months, but sometimes longer, it never seems like it goes on the shorter side of the scale. Anyway, it's not a good deal. Also, it's just more involved. You'll know if you're in that sort of situation, but usually you find this with retired folks, and this is going to be their dream home, and they want to build it just how they want it. But as a real estate salesperson, I've seen a lot of custom homes that are just odd. Somebody's going to build a tract home. They're going to do a lot of research. They're going to do a lot of planning to make it kind of universally appealing, and sometimes that doesn't always happen in the custom home. So you see I remember one home, it had these hallways that were like 2.5 feet wide. It was just completely odd. You couldn't even get furniture into it, and that wouldn't have happened in a tract home. So do you want the homes that all look the same the whole way down the street? No, maybe not. But do you want a home that's thoroughly designed and not too, like a geodesic dome or something? Anyway, some of that stuff is just hard to sell. Building a home, delays. Contractors, you got to be licensed. You got to do the research. But it's just a lot more involved. It's almost a job for you looking over this contractor. So if you're in that situation, but again, there's reasons to get involved in that, but not typically ones that are sound from an investment perspective. So evaluating the property, the zoning laws, the school system, and that's the thing. Even if you, if you have children, even if you don't have children, you buy something as if you're going to sell it. Hopefully, you'll be able to stay in that home, and your things will go, right on plan. But you need to buy something with the, thought in mind. How is this going to appeal to other people? Is this going to be something that's going to be easy to put on the market and sell? So you want to be concerned about schools. You want to be concerned about what the average buyer is concerned about. Even if you're, a single person or somebody who's never going to have kids, you want to be in that that decent neighborhood, just because you never know what's going to happen. The other thing is when you're buying a home, especially if it's a first time starter home, what you really want to do is you want to look for something that's going to be an ideal rental. Because when you go to buy a home, you go to the bank, two guys, and let's say one guy's buying an investment property and guy's buying a property for himself to live in, as principal residence. The person buying the principal residence is going to get a great interest rate and all the other perks associated with it. The person who's buying an investment property, it's going to be a higher rate, there's going to be more demands, a higher down payment, a higher everything. So ideally, if you're, can work it out, you buy a piece of property as your principal residence with the intention of, okay, after 3 years, we're moving on, and oh, by the way, we get to keep this cheap loan, and we didn't have to put much down, and now we can go on and buy, the next home that's more like something that we wanted originally but couldn't afford. So that's a good strategy, and you see a lot of folks doing that. Real estate agent, offer, negotiate the price, assist you in obtaining finance, or represent you in closing. Representing you, that's nothing. I just go in there and sign the paperwork. So there's not a whole lot of value added there. Negotiating the price, they may help you on that. Assist you in obtaining financing, present your offer. Really what's going on here, though, is you would think for sale by owner folks are selling property at a cheaper price. Could be, but 99% of the guys, they're trying to get even more. And if they're working with a agent, as they're calling in this case, the agent would say, you're asking too much. And that may have happened. They may have worked with an agent and said, there's no way you're going to get that. And they're like, well, you don't know what you're doing. I'm going to sell this thing myself. So, and then the other things, the legal aspects, they don't know, well and septics and all these other septic and all these other things that need to be done to get a sale done. So a lot of times you'll see this even translate to future sales where, you go to sell your home, you did a for sale by owner, you bought it from somebody for sale by owner, and when you go to sell the home, even if you use an agent, but you find out that the paperwork way back when is all screwed up, and it's going to delay the sale the next time through because it wasn't done properly. So there's something to be said for that, especially if you're not familiar with the area, because they can give you a pretty good insight. So the home inspection, hire an inspector. There's some guys out there who do, inspections, but in my mind, they aren't of the caliber that I'd be looking for. I've always hired a professional engineer. There's a few guys you look in the book, and one guy I know personally who, I can't give personal recommendations, but you can find guys out there who are, structural engineers who can look at something and know immediately rather than just tell you, do kind of a surface inspection and make sure the outlets are working it. There was one home I was looking at that had, it looked like it had structural problems, but it was a great deal. So I hired an engineer, and sure enough, it did have structural problems, and he pointed it out, and we moved on. But just having the confidence of having a real engineer, especially when they're available, I wouldn't do that. At the very least, use at least some inspector. Mortgage company will want an appraisal. Don't put too much faith in the appraisals, though. The appraisals kind of come out to where your loan is, so it's not like these guys do all one-off blind inspection. They look at all the comparables in the area, and then they make a calculation, and a lot of times they'll even know what your purchase price is, and they want to see the deal go through. So it's I wouldn't say it's shady, but I've had students who were appraisers who kind of confirmed that it's not it's not as valuable as what you would think. The home price, you do have to know the market, and again, maybe that would be the reason to have the agent help you out with that. Purchase price, you don't want to insult the people coming and lowball them. You may actually cause more problems, but you do want to get a good deal on the property, and don't be afraid that the offer counter offer is typical stuff. Earnest money is just the money you put down to a couple $1,000 or something, just to show that you've got at least some cash. So it's not a big deal. There's rules on how the earnest money needs to be transferred, and if the deal falls through, then the earnest money comes back. Contingency clauses. These are sort of like an offer without without any teeth to it. Again, like I say, most real estate deals you can walk away from. But if I've got somebody who's, if let's say I'm selling my home and I have a person who comes up with these contingencies, like I've got to sell my house before I can. It's not really even an offer. I'm not gonna generally take the house off the market to wait for some other guy to sell his home. Or more common than that is you'll find most salespeople will not take out somebody who hasn't already pre-qualified for housing. Again, let's say there's a home going for $250,000, and somebody offers, a full price offer, $250,000, but they haven't qualified, and somebody offers $240,000, but they're pre-qualified. The pre-qualified offer is, even though it's less money, is usually going to get picked up because, again, why didn't this guy pre-qualify? Most people, your better salespeople, won't even waste their time driving you around in a car unless you're qualified. I mean, it's just silly. It's not that hard to do, and you really don't know where you stand. I mean, how do I know what type of homes to show you if you don't know what you can afford? Obtaining financing. So you don't want to pay PMI, but sometimes you have to. Private mortgage insurance is what that's called. Rates, terms, that's all available online. Again, my preference would be to go with one of the local banks just so they can work it out if they can match the same rate. We talked about what you should be looking at, but when you go to one of the mortgage companies and you fill out the paperwork, they'll give you an idea of what you can afford in terms of your unique situation, because gross income is only one part of the equation. If you've got student loan debt, if you've got other things, that's all going to factor into what they say you can afford. So pre-qual, you got to do it. You're basically wasting your time and everybody else's if you haven't done it. Find the property, including the appraisal, fee, permit, and points, prepaid. I've bought, personally, probably 10 houses or so. I've never paid points. It's a way to buy down the interest rate, but usually it's just never made financial sense, and I've never been involved in any transactions where they've done it, but it's an option. Fixed rate mortgages. So this is the standard right now. There are a bunch of what they call ARMs, adjustable rate mortgages, and but most people have been scared off by them because there is a lot of people who basically could afford the mortgage when the interest rates are low, but if interest rates go up, they're in real trouble. I would also usually go with the 30-year loan. If you say, well, I'd rather do it in 15. Again, I violate my own rules. I took out a 10-year mortgage, but generally, if you take out a 30-year mortgage, you can make double payments and pay it off in a shorter term if you want. But if you get in a scrape, you can go ahead and take it out to the full 30 years. So you take the 30-year mortgage and you make double payments, and you'll pay it off much quicker. So anyway, I tend to go with the 30-year. I saw them in Spain as going out to 60 years, which was just silly. Also, if you're a veteran, you know that you can generally get by with no money down. FHA is another loan program, and then conventional is just kind of going into a bank. Balloon payments, people have gone away from that. That was, where you have a small payment and then, big payments later on. Again, you can see that you're setting yourself up for failure. The FHA limits on the types of homes, and you can go above these limits, but then you have to, come up with other types of financing. So, single family there, 355, 30. So that would probably work for most people in most situations. And then you start going up into the different properties. But again, these rates will change. So I talked about ARMs, adjustable rate mortgages, variable payment mortgages. Again, they usually had some sort of index where they couldn't run away from you too quickly, but eventually if the interest rates get up high into the double digits, which they did in I guess that was the late 80s. I mean, this can get ugly in a hurry. So Anyway, you don't even see too many of these available. But if you do see some really low sort of teaser rate that really gets your attention and it's an ARM, I would generally stay away from it. Comparison of 15 and 30. So, 30 is going to be 360 payments over the course of 30 years, and the other one's 180. So the difference in price and the total cost. But, there's another factor in here of the inflation. 30 years from now, if your payment amount is $600 in the year, 2044, that's $600 will probably buy you, dinner. So it's again, that total cost. This chart doesn't really take into account the time value of money. The fact that $600 30 years from now is not going to be that much money. But you can get a rough idea of what the payments are going to be. Keep in mind you also have other costs. Usually you have taxes also included, and that might be a reason for going to the valley. That property taxes are a bit lower, although you get sales tax, so you got to pay them somehow. This is just something that shows you the effect of an interest rate. So, the interest rate changes just from 6 to 7. Granted, that's pretty high for these days, but you can see just that little bump, changes the monthly payment by $65. So they are very interest rate sensitive in terms of the payments. Other things, not very common, buy downs, interest subsidy, reduces the payment. Sometimes when you get involved in new construction, and it is kind of fun to have, a new house now and then, but some of those moving costs, putting in the yard, obviously you're putting in sprinklers up here, but you're going to have a lot of other issues depending on mainly the yard stuff and other fix-up things. It's just, once you own a house, you'll know what I'm talking about. You'll realize how these little things kind of nickel and dime you. Second mortgage type thing, where you're going to take out a loan on the equity in your home, and if you're in that sort of situation where you need to do that, you would do that because it's tax deductible. Reverse mortgages, these are getting more popular. I would definitely talk to a lawyer though before I jump into one of these. I've never quite figured out if you end up living to be 90, whether they're like, okay, it's our house now, you gotta go. I think there's always a provision to keep you in there. But basically, what they do in a reverse mortgage is just like what they say. You start getting payments from the company, and it's basically going to be their house once you pass away. Again, the grandkids are going to be a little miffed when this happens, but they've got plenty of time to make their own money. Refinance if the interest rate drops at least 1%. I've called the bank before on different things when the rates are getting a little bit lower, and it usually takes at least 1% before it makes sense to refinance. But keep that in mind. You aren't necessarily locked into that rate. You can jump in, but if by the time you're paying the admin fees and a lot of the other fees, it's got to be at least 1% to even break even. Close purchase and transaction. So when you have an agent or a salesperson, they will go through all the different things on this. If you don't have somebody, if you're doing a for sale by owner, the title companies will provide some assistance, and that'll be where the closing will take place, but the mortgage company can help you out with this. So you aren't totally on your own, because believe me, a lot of times the real estate salespeople are they just know what the standard costs are in terms of what's a buyer expense, what's a seller's expense. And if you get very in depth, anyway, I find the people at the title companies, at the mortgage companies, are far sharper on some of the financial aspects than the salespersons. Selling your home, here it's even a seasonal thing. The market really does slow down around the holidays and in the wintertime in those cold months. So, but the main thing I could say about a home is the clutter. You really need to, if you've got a salesperson, they'll usually have somebody who works for them as a stager, and what they'll do is they'll come in and they'll just kind of look at the house and they'll say, yep, this is going, and they'll take all kinds of stuff off the walls, pictures of you and your family